Hello, I'm Esther Githui-Ewart. It's Wednesday, July 28th. This is Africa 54.
Kenyan aid groups say the al-Shabab terrorist group is working to recruit pandemic-hit young people. Thousands of new Ethiopian recruits, both men and women, are being dispatched to the conflict in Tigray as fighting spreads into neighboring regions. And the NBA says former U.S. President Barack Obama is joining NBA Africa as a strategic partner.
We begin our broadcast in East Africa, where Kenyan aid groups and analysts say the al-Shabab terror group is preying on young people who are struggling during the pandemic to recruit them into their ranks. To combat the recruitment efforts, Kenya's local groups are holding outreach sessions in low-income neighborhoods, as Ruth Elmendorp reports from Mombasa.
For 27-year-old Abdullah, a dream had come true. When mid-2019 he was promised a well-paid job through a recruitment agency. But on arrival he discovered that he had been abducted by al-Shabab, the terror group responsible for multiple deadly attacks in Kenya.
They were all dressed the same way as I had seen before in the media. Some had names written in Arabic that, as a Muslim, I can read.
Al-Shabab occasionally issues video of its activities, such as this video posted on the website jihadology.net, which tracks the activities of Al-Shabab. VOA cannot independently confirm the accuracy of the video. In the Al-Shabab camp, Abdullah received teaching in a strict version of Islam, and he was trained at gunpoint to conduct terror attacks.
You are told the gun is your closest friend who will defend you. When you are there, you must be trained to use a bomb. And those who went to school, they are taught about how to mix the chemicals.
Abdullah says he was forced to stay for almost a year with al-Shabab. He managed to escape when the Kenyan army thwarted a planned attack on a mobile phone mast, and he made it back to Mombasa. According to Hassan Kanenje of the Horn International Institute for Strategic Studies in Nairobi, al-Shabab targets low-income neighborhoods in Mombasa for recruitment, as some in the community struggle to cope with challenges due to the pandemic.
This was also a very fertile ground for al-Shabab to recruit, because then they can paint the state as being the problem and COVID measures as confirmation of the kind of bias that secular governments have against Muslims, for instance.
The local government in Mombasa has been responding with group sessions for those involved in crimes such as petty theft to stop them from joining al-Shabab, says Shamsa Fadili, the chairwoman of the local district peace committee.
So that we take them in the right direction, we give them the morals and values, we make them patriotic so that they become better citizens and they become our peace ambassadors.
As for Abdullah, he was among 300 youths recently pardoned and allowed back into society. They went through a government-regulated program to counsel them and get them back on the right track. This also involves skills training. They were given new identities and support, and he's looking forward to a new future.
I was told that I will be supported to start a new life because I want to get married, to have a family.
As Kenya prepares for a next wave of the COVID-19 pandemic, local organizations continue build-up initiatives intended to prevent another wave of recruits from joining violent extremism. Ruth Elmendorp for VOA News, Mombasa, Kenya.
Thousands of young men and women were dispatched from Ethiopia's capital on Tuesday as a war in Tigray spread into neighboring regions. David Doyle has more.
A ceremony was held in Addis Ababa on Tuesday, bidding farewell to the Ethiopian military's newest soldiers. According to the mayor's office, 3,000 men and women will join the ranks of Ethiopia's National Defence Force. Recruits like 18-year-old Miret Achamo.
I am ready to do everything in my capacity for my country, even sacrifice myself. I am ready to give my blood, my life to protect Ethiopia.
Youth from across the country are joining the federal forces as a war between the Tigray People's Liberation Front and the central government spreads. On Sunday, the Amhara region, which neighbours Tigray, called on all young people to take up arms against the TPLF. A resident in the town of Debak in northern Amhara said he had seen young people lining up on Monday in response to the call. Debak lies around 25 miles south of Zarima, which the TPLF claims its fighters have reached. That's after seizing their first town in Amhara, Adi Arke, over the weekend, according to spokesman Getachew-Reda. A spokesman for the Amhara regional government said the areas are still under Amhara control. Last week, forces loyal to the TPLF also pushed into Afar region to the east, home to the main highway and railway linking Addis with the seaport of Djibouti. Meanwhile, the United Nations has also warned that 24,000 Eritrean refugees in Tigray have become cut off from humanitarian aid. Babar Baluch, spokesperson for the UN High Commissioner for Refugees, said violence had escalated in and around the Maieni and Adi Harush camps.
Clean drinking water is running out. No healthcare services are available, and hunger is a real danger. The last food distribution to both refugee camps was done in late June, which provided them rations for just 1 month.
Thousands of people have died in the Tigray conflict. Around 2 million have been forced from their homes, and more than 5 million depend on emergency food aid.
That report was filed by David Doyle of Reuters. Somalia lacks a national power grid and relies on imported fuel, wood and charcoal for its energy needs. But energy experts say with the longest coastline in mainland Africa and an average of 10 hours of sunshine per day, Somalia has great potential for onshore wind and solar power. Mohammed Sheikh Noor reports from Mogadishu.
Somalia's private power companies rely on imported diesel to meet demand, making Mogadishu power cost more than 3 times the price of the global average. But they hope to transition to renewable energy. Abdulaziz Ilaika, electric engineer, Blue Sky Power.
The challenge for the sector is that solar power is relatively new and there is a lack of investment. We have the skills and the technology is readily available, but we lack needed investments to tap onshore and hydropower to make use of these abundant resources. But I am sure we will soon be able to tap these resources.
To help jumpstart renewables, a group of private companies this year formed the Somalia Green Energy Association, SOGEA. The founder of clean energy company Dalsam Power, Bashir Sofe, is SOGEA's chairman.
We face various obstacles, such as lack of incentives and investments from both the government and international community. But if we get the necessary investment and funding, particularly if banks can open their doors to support the renewable energy sector, then Somalia can become a hub for renewable energy and rise economically.
Somalia's Ministry of Planning, Investment and Economic Development says it is pushing renewable energy under the Somalia Investment Promotion Office, SOMInvest. Mohammed Dubo, Director, SOMInvest.
As you are aware, Somalia is endowed with vast natural resources by God's will. Among the renewable energy resources include wind and solar energy. Our wind speeds are quite high, even the fastest in the world, and these can generate substantial electricity. Similarly, we have long periods of sunshine, and we have potential to even sell power to our neighbors.
A 2018 African Development Bank study noticed Somalia has the highest potential of any African nation for onshore wind power, if it can only harness the wind. Samater Mohammed, economics lecturer, Mogadishu University.
Somalia is not exporting renewable energy. Maybe it is because the country lacks experience. If we can take advantage of our abundant renewable energy, the price of a kilowatt hour would not be as expensive as it is. The utility rate would be cheap, and everyone would be able to afford electricity.
As the world moves to clean energy, Somalia's energy industry hopes to move with it and find its place in the sun. Mohammed Shahnour for VOA News, Mogadishu, Somalia.
The National Basketball Association has announced that former U.S. President Barack Obama is joining NBA Africa as a strategic partner. Mr. Obama released a statement about his future role with NBA Africa and the impact that he hopes to achieve. That was former U.S. President Barack Obama speaking about his new role with NBA Africa. We'll be right back.
Next on Straight Talk Africa, we'll take an in-depth look at the youth-led social uprisings we've seen across Africa in recent years. As young people take to the streets and social media to demand change, we ask, have they been effective? And what have the mass uprisings really accomplished? Join me, Heidi Adams, on the next Straight Talk Africa.
Welcome back. Some scientists say Britain risks becoming a breeding ground for new variants of the coronavirus that could be resistant to vaccines. Henry Ridgewell has more from London.
3, 2, 1. For 16 months, nightclubs were silenced by the pandemic. They reopened July 19th as Britain celebrated so-called Freedom Day. For the young, a chance to forget the misery of lockdown.
We've been the last ones to get the vaccine. We've always been the blame. We've been the blame for the spread of the COVID, and it's just nice to get freedom and kind of like brush it all off.
But scientists warn those freedoms bring added dangers.
I think that there will be more infections than we've seen in the last days. With more infections, there is bigger chance that we will see new variant, which might be even more infectious.
Britain has rolled out one of the fastest vaccination programs in the world. Just over 70% of adults are fully vaccinated. But unlike in the United States and parts of Europe, under 18s haven't been offered the vaccine.
If we have groups which are unvaccinated, they are they're the danger. That's the variant which might be more infectious or better at evading our immune response will appear there. Teenagers and children are unvaccinated, and the new variant might appear among them.
Some scientists warn the combination of high infection rates and incomplete vaccination programs pose considerable dangers.
It is creating the most perfect, fertile ground for the virus, these variants that are present now, to evolve resistance to the vaccine.
So far, British government scientists say there is no evidence that the virus is becoming more resistant to vaccines. And as more people are vaccinated, total infections should decrease, reducing the scope for the virus to mutate. Meanwhile, Britain has one of the world's most advanced genome sequencing programs, so it can quickly identify any new variants of concern.
The key thing we need to look out for actually is not just a new variant emerging, a brand new variant emerging, but actually Delta changing to have increasing biological characteristics that could lead to more spread or to increased immune evasion.
14% of the global population is fully vaccinated against the coronavirus, but just 1.1% of people in low-income countries have received a single dose.
We need whole world being vaccinated or having immunity on a certain level. And if only some countries will be vaccinated on that level, that wouldn't give us this global safety net.
As long as large populations remain unvaccinated, scientists say the coronavirus will continue to pose a risk to the whole world. Henry Ridgewell for VOA News, London.
Computer programming skills are seen by many as a way to earn a decent income. For Apia Owusu-Fofie, founder and executive director of Coders Who Travel, it is empowering young people with computer or mathematical programming skills to meet the global demand for software developers. Africa 54 technology correspondent Paul Ndiho recently spoke with Owusu-Fofie in the U.S. state of Virginia.
Apia Owusu-Fofie, welcome to Africa 54.
Thank you for having me.
You have inspired so many young people across Africa, in Ghana especially, where you have trained hundreds of people to code. How did this all come about?
I was a senior programmer at a think tank called Mathematical Policy Research around August 2014. And one of my colleagues invited me to a meetup event called for data scientists. And later when I returned home, the meetup app recommended an organization called Women Who Code to me. So as a woman who was coding that time, I was very interested. So I took a trip to one of their libraries in DC and saw a group of women helping each other and teaching each other how to code. And immediately I had a reaction to it because I just wished I had something similar when I was growing up in Ghana. And so I called the organization and they told me that there was no branch in Ghana. And so I decided to self-finance that network so Ghana could have that chapter.
Let's talk more about the organization that you founded, where you are empowering these young people. Are you only targeting women, or you're targeting every single person who wants to learn how to code?
We are targeting about 65% women and 35% men, because from the experiences of the prior organization, I realized that the women were bringing their friends who were men who were also in need of the same skill set. And so in Coders Who Travel, we've made it unisex. So we always call them a few good men are always welcome in our programs.
When you interact with these young women, young men that you're trying to empower with these computer skills or technical skills, what are their stories? What do they tell you? How do they want to change the world?
That's a great question. I think initially, let's say the women, one tells me that it's critical that she gets support at home. And so we've seen, even at our events, sometimes a husband showing up with the toddler to allow the women to, participate in our programs. I've also seen women tell me, reach out to me and say, I want a recommendation letter to prestigious organizations like the World Bank. Some are graduate schools at top universities. And so through that, I know that our programs are, at the very least, giving confidence and empowerment for people to want to do good in the world.
The programs that you do for these young people, are they geared towards the people who are already experienced or beginners?
It's beginners and intermediate people, because we believe that an expert can make a difference in the life of a beginner and someone who is at the intermediate level.
You talked about, for example, artificial intelligence, Python, and other coding languages. that you are currently engaged in or helping young people to learn those skills. Can you speak more to that?
I would choose SaaS because that's my domain. We just partnered with Coursera to release 5 courses in the domain of SaaS, and I led it. I created the concept, I recorded the videos, but I delegated to about 5 individuals.
I've learned a lot of things on Coursera. I just go there just to empower myself.
And I use Coursera so it's good to know. There's no way you can survive the workplace if you don't leverage, MOOCs like Coursera,
What's the name of the course?
So we have Learning SaaS, History, and SaaS Studio, which talks about the history of SaaS and introduces you to the free version of SaaS called SaaS Studio.
What has surprised you the most doing this program?
I think there's not nearly enough funding to fund great ideas like these as much as I would see. Most of it has been self-financed and also backed by handful donations. And so that has surprised me that I'm in tech, I'm a woman, and funding doors haven't opened nearly as much for us to scale, the vision that we have.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
That was Africa 54 technology correspondent Paul Ndiho speaking with Afia Owusu Fofie, founder and executive director of Coders Who Travel. For many, the water hyacinth is a menace, an invasive plant that harms aquatic life and helps bacteria and mosquitoes flourish. But a Kenyan entrepreneur is pioneering a machine that turns the weed into clean cooking fuel. Here again is David Dio.
On the Kenyan shores of Lake Victoria, entrepreneur Dominic Kahumbu and his team are using rakes and their hands to remove water hyacinth. It's an incredibly invasive plant, covering the surface of the water like a carpet, harming fish and helping mosquitoes and bacteria thrive. But where many see a pest, Kahumbu sees an opportunity.
What we're doing out here on Lake Victoria is we're harvesting this, what everyone considers to be a real menace and a pest, an invasive species, and it has many, many negative connotations to it. But the actual fact is water hyacinth is a blessing in disguise.
And that's because Kahumbu's company, Biogas International, is piloting a machine that converts water hyacinth into clean cooking fuel. Kahumbu says 2 to 3 kilograms will provide fuel for a cooker, making a meal of maize and beans over 4 hours.
The gas is tapped from the center of the actual digester tube.
The project, in partnership with drug maker AstraZeneca and the Institute for Sustainability Leadership at the University of Cambridge, has provided the digesters to 50 families in Kenya's western city, Kisumu. That's allowed residents like Tony Otieno to abandon his traditional stove called a jiko. It runs on charcoal, which Otieno says was costing him around $12 per sack.
The gas has no smoke, it has no smell, then it is much faster than the jiko.
But at a cost of $650, Kahumbu acknowledges that the machines are not affordable for most families in the city.
The elderly people who should be retiring are choking themselves to death, which is, it's criminal in this day and age that we should allow such a thing. When we have this is biogas. They should all have biogas.
He says the business needs capital investment, and he's looking to the kinds of businesses that want to buy carbon credits to ensure his green fuel project can stay afloat.
David Doyle of Reuters filed that report. And that wraps up our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, we thank you for watching.